Hi, hello guys, how are you all? நீங்கள் நியூஸை பார்த்தா உங்களுக்கு தெரிஞ்சிருக்கும். There has been a ceasefire understanding between India and Pakistan. இன்றைக்கி 5 மணிலேருந்து ceasefire has been effective immediately. இப்போ அதோட நியூஸ் ப்ரீஃபிங் ஆஸ் வெல் அஸ் எப்படி இன்டர்நெட்டில் அதை பார்க்கப்படுது அப்படிங்கிற எல்லாத்தையும் நம்ம சேர்த்து வச்சு ஒன்றா பார்க்க போகிறோம். வாங்க, லெட்ஸ் கெட் டு த ஷோ. ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஸ்க்ரீன்ஷாட். BBC, India and Pakistan have a great full break பண்ணது யாரு? ட்ரம்ப் தான் எக்ஸ்ல போட்டிருந்தாப்ல.
Just to bring you an update on that story, in the last few moments, President Trump has posted on his Truth Social media site saying, after a long night of talks mediated by the United States, I'm pleased to announce that India and Pakistan have agreed to a full and immediate ceasefire. The president goes on to say congratulations to both countries on using common sense and great intelligence. So as I say, that announcement by President Trump in the last few moments on his Truth Social platform, saying that after a long night of talks mediated by the US, he's saying India and Pakistan have agreed to a full and immediate ceasefire. Now, we should say we haven't had any comment yet from either the Indian or the Pakistani side on this story, but you see it there from President Trump posting on his social media platform just in the last few moments. These hostilities, of course, have really escalated in the last few days following this militant attack at the end of April in which 26 people were killed. But in the last few days in particular, things have really gone up a notch with missiles being sent between either side. Let's bring in our correspondent in Islamabad, Azadeh Mashiri, on this breaking news. Azadeh, we're just getting this in the last few minutes. What more do we know?
Well, we knew before this that the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio had spoken to the Chief of the Army here, General Asim Munir, and then later on in the day had spoken to the Foreign Minister of Pakistan as well as the Foreign Minister of India. And what he had offered both of them was America's help in starting what he called both constructive and productive talks. And so now, as everyone was wondering how this could end, Donald Trump, the President of the United States, has made this announcement on Twitter that there has been a full and immediate ceasefire that has been agreed between India and Pakistan. But I do need to flag that there still hasn't been an official statement from either government. And so this is only coming from President Donald Trump right now. But of course it would be a serious development in that that's what world leaders have been urging for both countries to engage in de-escalation, to show maximum restraint, as the United Nations had put it. But in the early hours of the morning here, when people were waking up in Pakistan, it seemed like that was quite a long way away, in that the Pakistani army had claimed that 3 of its military bases were under attack and that it was launching what it was calling Bunyanun Operation Marsus, which means iron wall, as a counter-offensive is how it put it. So this would be a significant development.
Okay, Azadeh Mashiri for us in Islamabad. Thank you very much. And just to remind you, if you're just joining us, President Trump has posted on social media to say that after a long night of talks mediated by the US, he's pleased to announce that India and Pakistan have agreed to a full and immediate ceasefire. As Azadeh mentioned there, we haven't had any comment from either Pakistani or Indian sides. And actually, I think we can go back to Azadeh now, who may have an update on that. Azadeh?
I do, because the Ministry of Foreign Affairs here in Pakistan, just as we stopped speaking, put out an announcement on X. The Foreign Minister has tweeted that Pakistan and India have agreed to a ceasefire with immediate effect. Now, the statement goes on. He says Pakistan has always strived for peace and security in the region without compromising on its sovereignty and territorial integrity. Now, I'm sure much more is about to come out as I'm speaking to you, but that is confirmation, at least from Pakistan, that a ceasefire has been agreed with immediate effect, is what he said. Now, Remember, both countries have accused each other of having started this conflict. It all started a month ago when there was that attack in Indian-administered Kashmir in Pahalgam, where 26 people, mostly tourists, were killed. India at the time blamed this on militants that it believed were based on Pakistani soil and therefore held Pakistan responsible, whereas here officials and the military firmly denied this and had been calling for an open investigation. And so that has been one of the most difficult sticking points, is not only were India and Pakistan not speaking to each other, but they were continuing to trade claim and counterclaims, accusing each other of targeting civilian areas, denying it both. But it seems like today there has been a significant breakthrough, though again it's worth waiting to see what India says.
As you say, it's early moments. We've not heard from the Indian government yet. We are seeing a few lines dropping on the Reuters news agency from Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State. He's saying over the last 48 hours, J.D. Vance and himself have engaged with senior Indian and Pakistani officials. Seeing Marco Rubio saying that talks will take place between India and Pakistan on a broad set of issues at a neutral site. Now, this is an issue between the two countries over the disputed territory of Kashmir in particular that goes back 8 decades or so. This is one of the more recent flare-ups. Talk us through some of the particular flashpoints we've seen over the last few days.
Well, over the last few days, it was particularly when it came to the night of the 6th of May, when India said it had launched several airstrikes on what it was calling terrorist camps, terrorist infrastructure within Pakistan, and those had targeted not only Pakistan-administered Kashmir, but also the province of Punjab here in Pakistan, which was seen as reaching far deep into Pakistan itself. And again, I have to flag that while we're talking about flashpoints, we're not talking about who started this conflict, because that's really at the heart of this dispute and why it's been so difficult to find an off-ramp to this. And so just recently, just a few hours ago, both India and Pakistan had been saying, and they've said this to the BBC, you've spoken to the Indian High Commissioner and the Minister of Information here in Pakistan, both were saying if the other stops, I'll stop. Both were accusing the other of targeting civilian areas. Both were denying it. And so there have been constant flashpoints, if anything, this week. But putting this week aside, putting the events of Pahalgam last month aside, this, as you say, is a dispute that is long running. It has lasted decades, ever since partition. And these two countries have fought 2 wars over the issue of Kashmir. They've also fought limited conflicts over it. The last time there was a serious escalation was in 2019, and at that point both countries, nuclear states, managed to avert an all-out war. And the question was, would this time, because as many people here in Pakistan have told me as I've been going to markets and speaking to residents to get their sense of what they feel about all this, they've described it to me as the worst conflict they've seen between India and Pakistan in decades.
And so as of today, that announcement then of a full and immediate ceasefire will just be a huge sigh of relief to the many civilians in the area.
நான் பட்ட கண்டென்ட் உங்களுக்கு பிடிச்சிருக்கா லைக் பண்ணுங்கள். உங்களுக்கு சஜஷன் இருக்குன்னா அப்புறம் இதை பற்றி பேசலாமே அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு கண்டென்ட் உங்களுக்கு எதாவது இருக்குது நான் சஜஸ்ட் பண்ணணும்னு நினச்சிங்கன்னா கமெண்ட் செக்ஷனில் தெரியப்படுத்துங்க. If you want to support me, hit that subscribe button. This is the only way you can support any upcoming YouTubers like me. நான் கொஞ்சம் பேர் ரெஸ்ட் எடுக்கிறேன், கொஞ்சம் அடுத்தது என்னென்னு பிளான் பண்ணிட்டு வரேன். நான் கண்டிப்பாக நியூஸ் ரிஜெக்ட் இன்னைக்கு காதலுக்கு தான் கொடுக்குறாங்க நியூஸ் டிபேட்டில், அது எல்லாமே நாளைக்கு நம்ம ரியாக்ட் பண்ணுவோம். யாரும் நிம்மதியாக போய் படுத்துவங்க. சீஸ்ஃபயர் இன்னும் கரெக்டாக பாகிஸ்தான் ஹானர் பண்ணிக்கலன்னு தெரியல, நிறையா பிஏ வருது தே ஹேவ் இட் த வயலேட்டட் சீஸ்ஃபயர்னு. ஸ்டே விஜிலண்ட் அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவேன் நான். எல்லோரும் நிம்மதியாக தூங்குங்க. இன்னொரு நல்ல ஸ்டோனோட சந்திக்க நாட்டில் இருக்க. பை யூ ஆல். பீஸ் அவுட்.